Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to break down complex stuff so you get the core insights fast. Now, for decades, we've measured education success using, well, pretty poor proxies, wouldn't you say? Credit hours, degrees, GPAs.
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamentally flawed. I mean, you can ace every test, get a 4.0, but does that really mean you'll remember the skill a year later? Or, more importantly, can you actually apply it under pressure in the real world? The whole system rewards time spent, the input, not the actual competency, the output.
Yeah, and we saw this play out with the first wave of online learning too, right? Offered scale, it was cheaper, sure. But the results were often underwhelming, low completion rates, and honestly, hard to measure real-world impact.
Exactly. Those traditional metrics just couldn't capture the value, or sometimes the lack of value, in what was being learned. And that massive gap, between the certificate on the wall and what someone can actually do. That's exactly the problem our sources today are tackling. EON Reality, a company known for its VR and AR knowledge transfer platforms, is making a really big strategic move here.
They're not just selling tech anymore.
Not just tech, they're trying to set a new global standard for how we even measure education's effectiveness.
And that standard has a name, Knowledge Transfer Efficiency, or KTE.
Right.
They're even calling it the GDP of learning. That's quite a claim.
It's definitely ambitious. Think about it. Gross domestic product, GDP, became the standard way, maybe imperfect, but still the standard, for measuring a whole economy's output. EON wants KTE to do the same for education, to define quality, efficiency, real-world value globally.
So it positions them as the authority, the ones who can demonstrate actual ROI on education.
Precisely.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is clear. We need to unpack this KTE thing. What's the formula? How does this GDP of learning actually work? And how are they gathering the data for it? Plus, we need to look at the shift it supposedly represents, especially comparing old school methods to this immersive XR tech. All right, let's get into the core of it. If KTE is supposed to be this new standard, what is it actually measuring? The sources say it's a fraction, outcomes over cost and efficiency.
That's the gist. The numerator, the top part, that's where the big conceptual leap happens. It completely ignores seat time. It focuses only on the verifiable results. And there are two key parts to that. First is applied mastery percentage.
Applied mastery. Okay, that sounds different, not just passing.
Exactly. It's defined as the proportion of learners who get to functional competency. So think about it like this. Are we checking if a welding student can pass a quiz on metallurgy? Or are we checking if they can actually lay down a perfect, safe weld under pressure?
Right. Can they do the job?
Can they do the job? That's applied mastery, verifiable skill.
Okay, verifiable skill acquisition. Makes sense. And the second part of the outcome side, that's something the traditional system pretty much ignores, right? Durability.
That's retention duration. And it's measured in months. How long do you actually keep that skill, that capability? I mean, what's the point of learning something if you forget it 6 weeks after the final exam? The value just evaporates. So the numerator, taken together, really measures durable, useful knowledge that sticks and can be applied.
Okay, that defines the value side clearly. But the formula is about efficiency, too. So how quickly and cheaply do you get that durable skill? That's the denominator, the bottom part.
Correct. Two components down there. First, time to mastery, also in months. Basically, how long does it take someone to reach that functional competency level we just talked about? Maybe you can get there in 6 weeks with an XR simulation instead of, say, 6 months in a traditional classroom setting.
Which leads right into the final piece, cost. And this seems like a very strategic part for EON.
Oh, absolutely. The fourth variable is the cost index. Now, this is clever. It's a relative cost per learner. EON sets the traditional university model, the expensive Ivy-covered baseline as the reference point, 1.0.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So they benchmark against the most expensive option.
Exactly. So if an XR solution gives you the same mastery and retention but costs half as much per student, its cost index might be 0.5. By doing this, their technology immediately looks much more efficient in the overall KTE score right from the start.
That is a sharp move, positioning the old way as inherently inefficient by definition. But hang on. Measuring applied mastery and retention duration over months. That sounds incredibly difficult. How do they even collect that kind of detailed long-term data?
Yeah, it's complex. They rely on 3 integrated data streams, according to the sources. First, the most direct one, tracking performance right inside the XR learning modules, the missions themselves. Every click, every decision, every mistake, every correction, it's all logged as performance data. That feeds directly into the applied mastery score.
Okay, that covers the practical skills. But what about understanding the theory behind it or complex problem solving?
Good question. That's where the AI comes in. They use something called the Brainy AI Conversation Viva.
Aviva, like an oral exam.
Essentially, yes. Like a tough oral exam you might get in grad school. The AI mentor engages the student in these deep Socratic dialogues. It dynamically assesses their understanding, their critical thinking, their grasp of the theory. And that assessment also feeds into the applied mastery score.
Wow. So it's not just a chatbot giving hints. It's more like an automated, rigorous defense of their knowledge. That's quite something.
It is. And then there's retention. To track that, you need ongoing monitoring. Their system uses analytic logs and audit trails designed specifically to watch for performance decay over time.
So they might retest you.
Exactly. A student might get tested again on a core skill maybe 3 months later, 6 months, 12 months out. If their performance is dropped, the system actually maps their individual retention curve. It calculates that definitive duration number, how long did the skill really last, and feeds that back into the KTE equation.
So it brings hard data, actual numbers, to that whole fuzzy area of knowledge retention.
That's the goal, making the soft skills measurable and trackable over time.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. Once you have this single KTE number, you can start comparing everything, apples to apples. So how do the traditional models stack up against these new XR-powered learning environments using this KTE metric?
Well, EON presents this in a couple of ways. One is using these things called radar charts. Picture a spiderweb chart. It shows performance across 7 key areas: speed, retention, engagement, applied performance, cost scalability, accessibility, and career impact.
Okay, I can picture that. And I bet the traditional university chart looks pretty lopsided. Maybe strong on career impact for some degrees, but weak on speed, cost, accessibility.
You nailed it. Very uneven strengths. Traditional models might excel in 1 or 2 areas but fall short in others. The EON models, or at least their goal, is to show what they call balanced excellence, filling out that radar chart more evenly across all dimensions.
Balance excellence.
And that's a key selling point, showing that they're not just boosting cost efficiency by, say, sacrificing engagement or long-term retention. They claim improvement across the board.
But the radar charts are complex. The simple comparison, the big headline number, is that KTE index, right? Where the traditional university is set at 1.0.
That's the one that grabs attention. Yes, traditional university equals 1.0 baseline.
So walk us through the others. What about standard online learning, like the big MOOCs?
Those typically score around 2.0 on the KTE index, so twice as efficient as the baseline.
Twice as efficient? How?
It's almost entirely driven by the denominator. Massive advantages in cost and scalability. You can reach millions relatively cheaply. But, and this is crucial, remember what we said, MOOCs often struggle with engagement. Actual applied performance is hard to measure, and retention duration can be quite low. Those weaknesses in the numerator hold their score back.
Right. So even with significant drawbacks on the learning outcome side, just the cost savings alone are enough to double the efficiency score compared to a traditional 4-year college.
Pretty much, yeah. But the real jump happens when you bring in immersive tech like XR, because now you're potentially optimizing both sides of the fraction. You might improve the numerator, getting better, applied mastery, longer retention, and improve the denominator faster. Time to mastery, lower relative cost.
Okay, so let's see those numbers. Take us up the ladder. Where does EON's own tech start to really challenge the old system?
Well, their baseline offering, the EON Generic Virtual Campus, they claim hits a KTE index of about 3.0, 3 times the efficiency.
30 times, yeah.
Then when an institution customizes it, tailoring the XR content, the AI dialogues, the assessments to their specific needs and local context, that custom institutional version reaches around 4.0.
4 times the efficiency. That's already getting into territory that could seriously disrupt things. What takes it even higher over the 5.0 mark?
That's what they call the enhanced custom model. This includes the whole package, full stack assessment, mandatory certification pathways built in, links to career services and job placements. This fully optimized solution, according to their data, hits a KTE index of 5.2.
5.2.
So connecting back to the big picture, the major headline EON is pushing is this. Their virtual campus can deliver up to 5 times higher knowledge transfer efficiency than the traditional university model.
Wow. Okay, if that 5x number is even close to accurate and holds up under scrutiny, that's not just an improvement. That feels like a fundamental threat to the viability of traditional high-cost education models.
It's potentially transformative, yes.
So how do they back that up? We need some real-world examples. How does this efficiency gain actually look for a student for a learner on the ground.
Okay, a good case study they provide is from a university English program at UCR. They rolled out English courses using the EON custom campus. Learners used XR modules for the basics, grammar, rhetoric, drills. But the really interesting part was using that brainy AI mentor to practice complex debate skills.
Ah, so the AI handles the structured practice, the drills.
Right. Which totally changes the instructor's role. Instead of spending endless hours grading basic essays or lecturing on comma rules, the human teacher is freed up. They can focus on facilitating higher level discussion, nuanced feedback, critical thinking skills, more coaching, less lecturing.
And the results. Did the KTE reflect this?
Apparently, yes. The index showed a 4 times efficiency gain compared to the traditional lecture format for those English courses. And crucially, they reported strong retention duration 12 months or more for the skills learned. Plus, they saw measurable improvements in writing quality, transfer credits earned, and even self-reported gains in employability linked to those communication skills.
Okay, English programs are one thing. But the really obvious application seems to be in vocational and technical training, right? Where you need hands-on practice with expensive or dangerous equipment.
Absolutely. That's a huge area. Think about training for forensics or complex nursing procedures or maintaining specialized manufacturing machinery. Normally, that requires massive investment in physical labs, equipment, materials.
Which aren't always available or safe for beginners.
Exactly. With XR, you simulate these labs entirely. Students can practice difficult or even dangerous scenarios, things that rarely happen or are too risky to train on live over and over again. No risk, minimal cost per session, no wasted materials.
So the time to mastery likely shrinks because practice is essentially unlimited, and the cost index plummets because you don't need the physical infrastructure. Did KTE confirm this?
Yes, the sources indicate that KTE analysis showed significant cost and time savings in these simulation-heavy fields. And importantly, they claimed this was achieved while maintaining equal or even demonstrably better applied mastery compared to students trained only in traditional physical labs.
And this simulation capability must have huge implications for accessibility, too, especially getting quality training to people in developing countries or remote areas.
That's a major part of their pitch. The KTE metric is designed to work even if students are accessing the learning through, say, progressive web apps on simpler devices or using offline XR modes because of low bandwidth.
So it measures the learning effectiveness, regardless of the delivery tech limitations.
That's the idea. It aims to demonstrate effective knowledge transfer, proving reach and fairness, even in places that were previously cut off from high-quality technical training. KTE, in theory, proves that efficient learning is possible even in challenging environments, still comparing favorably to that traditional 1.0 baseline.
What's really striking here, though, is how KTE isn't just a measurement tool. It feels like, well, like a strategic weapon for EON. It seems designed to position them within the entire education market structure.
That's a very astute observation. It definitely does that.
But it also raises a critical question, doesn't it? We need to address this. Isn't there a risk that EON is basically grading its own homework here? They're providing the tech and defining the metric that makes their tech look good.
That's the absolute core tension, and it's a completely valid criticism. It's the elephant in the room.
So how do they respond to that? How do they build credibility for KTE if it seems inherently self-serving?
Their stated strategy, according to the sources, is radical transparency and pushing for third-party validation. They claim they aren't keeping the KTE methodology secret.
Okay, tell me more about that transparency. What does that actually mean?
It means they plan to publish the entire KTE methodology, the formulas, the data collection standards, everything openly. And they say they are actively inviting academics, industry partners, assessment experts globally to review it, critique it, validate it. The goal, presumably, is to get enough independent buy-in that KTE transcends being just EON's metric and becomes an accepted objective standard for comparing any educational offering. If it holds up to scrutiny, of course.
I can definitely see the appeal for policymakers, though.
Yeah.
And employers. And accreditors.
Absolutely.
They're desperate for some kind of common yardstick to compare institutions based on actual results, not just historical reputation or how much they charge.
Precisely. KTE directly addresses that need. It forces the conversation away from inputs like how many students are enrolled or how many credits are offered, and shifts it squarely onto verifiable outcomes. Did the students gain skills they can actually use? Did they retain those skills long-term? Was it achieved efficiently?
Yeah. It puts pressure on institutions. If you claim to teach cybersecurity, KTE potentially demands proof that your graduates are still competent a year later, and that you taught them efficiently and affordably.
It changes the accountability structure.
Okay, so let's recap this deep dive. Knowledge transfer efficiency, this proposed GDP of learning, is designed from the ground up to measure the real output, the lasting value of education, while deliberately ignoring inputs like time and tuition costs. By tracking applied mastery, retention duration, time to mastery, and relative cost, EON argues it has hard evidence.
Or at least data suggesting.
Right, data suggesting that immersive XR environments, especially when paired with AI mentoring, can yield massive efficiency gains, potentially up to 5 times that of traditional methods.
It's basically an entire framework designed to provide empirical proof that a credential actually equals competence. And yeah, that fundamentally challenges the status quo, the inertia of the legacy educational system.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If, and it's still an but if global education standards really did shift towards something like KTE, if efficiency, proven skills, and long-term retention became the dominant measures, how would that change your own choices when you're picking a career path, choosing an institution, investing your time and money?
Yeah, think about it. If one provider can show a KTE score that's 5 times better for learning a critical, high-demand skill, what's the real long-term value of an old, established reputation from a more traditional place when stacked against that kind of measurable, data-driven performance advantage?
What's reputation worth versus 5x efficiency? Something to consider.